Holy mackerel, folks. They really hate each other now, and they cannot hide it any.
And, you know, Harry and Meghan's marriage is in trouble. They're in big trouble. And as soon as money problems come into the room, you can depend on it.
Meghan Markle just suffered a blow, and it didn't come from the press. It came from the man standing right beside her. Prince Harry was named among Time magazine's top 100 most influential figures in sports. A landmark recognition, and Meghan wasn't part of it. Rather than standing in his corner, she flooded Instagram with a string of puzzling, heavily scrutinized images. A calculated distraction, many believe, designed to pull focus away from Harry's moment in the spotlight. And here's what's making headlines behind closed doors. Sources say she's seething. The attention has shifted entirely onto Harry, and she cannot bear it. So what's really burning inside her, and could this be the crack that finally breaks everything apart?
The end for them?
I think he's not the brightest bulb in the tulip patch, Harry, to put it politely. I think she is very manipulative. Meghan Markle is someone who's basically got rid of almost her entire...
For decades, Prince Harry has stood at the intersection of royalty and purpose, but it was a sporting legacy, not a bloodline, that recently earned him a rare spotlight. For the first time in 5 years, the Duke of Sussex secured a place on Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People in Sport 2026, slotted into the leaders category alongside titans like NFL force Myles Garrett, tennis world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka, and distance running icon Faith Kipyegon. The recognition traced back to 2014, when Harry founded the Invictus Games, an international competition built for wounded, injured, and sick service members and veterans, a cause that has since become the defining chapter of his public life. But while the world paused to acknowledge that achievement, Meghan moved in a different direction entirely. Rather than stepping back to let her husband's moment breathe, she took to Instagram with a photo dump that felt oddly timed, images of herself lying face down, quiet garden corners, and a curiously framed shot of Harry and Archie with a football. The post landed at the exact moment Harry's Time feature was making headlines, and right as the couple had publicly pushed for a meeting with King Charles. The backlash came swiftly. Critics zeroed in on one image in particular, a child photographed in a dirty shirt, calling the entire dump careless and attention-seeking. Behind the scenes, royal insiders claim Meghan was quietly seething. The reason? Harry's name stood alone on that list. No shared billing. No dual recognition. Not even a passing mention of the Duchess. And that, reportedly, cut deep, because the last time Harry appeared on a Time list, Meghan was right there beside him. Cast your mind back to 2021. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex were featured together among Time's 100 Most Influential People, gracing one of 7 covers, Harry standing just behind Meghan, both dressed casually against a backdrop of trees. At the time, it felt like a crowning moment. Just a year earlier, the couple had resigned from royal duties, relocated to California, launched Archewell, signed a lucrative podcast deal with Spotify, and Harry had appeared alongside Oprah in an Apple TV Plus documentary series. The horizon looked limitless. Then reality arrived. 3 years after locking in a reported $20 million Spotify deal through Archewell Audio in December 2020, the partnership dissolved quietly in June 2023, framed publicly as a mutual split, though insiders suggested the parting was anything but. Their podcast, Archetypes, had wrapped after just 13 episodes, never returning for a second run. Word emerged that the couple had fallen short of producing enough content to unlock their full payout. Spotify executive Bill Simmons didn't soften his words, he openly labeled the Duke and Duchess lazy, calling them grifters. The platform's CEO added weight to that assessment, later acknowledging that Archetypes had simply failed to connect with listeners across its brief run. The empire Meghan once envisioned had quietly crumbled, and this time, there was no shared Time cover to soften the fall. Fresh thinking was long overdue in this space, Daniel Ek said in an interview with the BBC. We believed we could walk in and build something remarkable, an experience that leaves consumers genuinely delighted and opens fresh doors for a new generation of creators.
New avenues. Breakups aren't easy, even when you say you've mutually agreed to part ways. And they're even harder when there's $25 million involved. Yes, Spotify has ended its podcast deal with Harry and Meghan. When it was announced in 2020, it was billed as a relationship that would produce several series. In the end, one.
Now,
After the Spotify collapse, the failures just kept coming. Meghan's first major stumble following her and Harry's royal exit was a children's book called The Bench, released in June 2021. The picture book explored the quiet bond between father and son, told through a mother's perspective, and it had personal roots. Meghan originally wrote it as a poem for Harry on Father's Day, shortly after Archie was born in May 2019. But the sentiment didn't translate into success. The Bench never broke into the UK's official top 50 during its opening week. It eventually climbed to number 100 on Amazon's US bestseller chart, though that momentum quickly faded, especially considering Meghan had reportedly pocketed a $700,000 advance for the project. And the losses didn't stop there. The second season of her Netflix lifestyle show, With Love, Meghan, failed to land in the platform's top 10 when it dropped on August 26, 2025. Season 1 had performed decently when it launched in March 2025. But Season 2 pulled in roughly 500,000 fewer viewers, a steep and telling drop. Worse than the numbers were the reviews. The Guardian labeled it boring, painfully contrived, and so aggressively whimsical it circled back to being oddly compelling. The Times painted a sharper picture, describing Meghan as a woman who clearly needed the money. And perhaps most tellingly, the very audience that once championed her had now quietly, and not so quietly, walked away. The royal family handed Meghan Markle a life most people only dream of: status, wealth, a title, and a crown-level platform. She repaid every bit of it with public attacks and damaging accusations. That kind of betrayal reveals exactly who someone truly is. She fabricated stories about the royal family. She was welcomed and embraced by everyone around her. She threw it all away. She spent years twisting minds with her manufactured victim act. That anyone still sees her as some kind of legend, I genuinely cannot take it seriously. Meghan Markle disappoints.
Well, let's kick it off because Meghan Markle is in the headlines once again for really probably having the worst brand execution to date.
There was nothing about her brand that was good from the start to a distinguishing eye. She was a fraud, what I can see from the beginning, who was just using opportunities to advance herself. Her brand wasn't one built on substance, it was based on using people, and this is no
Sources close to the couple revealed that Meghan's mounting business failures have steadily darkened her mood, but it was Harry's Time 100 recognition that truly pushed her to the edge. The original plan, insiders believe, was simple: walk away from the palace, leverage the royal name, and watch the money pour in. That never happened. And buried beneath the surface, a quiet but corrosive resentment toward Harry has been building ever since. The financial strain has only deepened the fracture. Pushed into a corner, Meghan has reportedly been urging Harry to mend fences with the king and his brother. But the bridges they burned on the way out have proven far too damaged to rebuild. The fallout has been severe enough that the couple now finds themselves locked out of major royal events entirely. The most telling sign? Harry and Meghan were deliberately excluded from their cousin's wedding, kept away out of fear they would hijack the moment. Reports from the Express confirmed the ban on all upcoming royal occasions, citing the same concern. Peter Phillips, who married his fiancée Harriet Sperling on June 6 in a private ceremony surrounded by family, reportedly made his position clear: this was his day, not theirs. Sky News host Paul Murray echoed that sentiment, noting Phillips had no intention of letting the couple dominate his headlines. Palace officials, for their part, have quietly labeled Harry and Meghan toxic, a presence that poisons rather than elevates any room they enter. The tension shows no sign of easing. Harry is said to be hoping to bring Meghan and their children back to the UK to visit King Charles, yet the question of armed security protection remains unresolved, a bureaucratic standoff that mirrors the deeper family divide. He hasn't stood in the same room as Prince William since Queen Elizabeth's funeral in September 2022. Despite reportedly having his number, real communication between the brothers has all but collapsed. Many observers now see Meghan's recent Instagram activity as a deliberate chess move, timed to pull focus away from Harry's favorable press cycle. The couple's relentless media engagement has become a liability, eroding what little goodwill remains inside the palace and making any genuine reconciliation feel more distant with each passing week. Their pattern of using public platforms to shape narratives and apply pressure has drawn sharp criticism, with some going as far as calling it emotional manipulation wrapped in a polished aesthetic. What's unfolding before us is a portrait of two lives caught between ambition and consequence. Meghan's photo dump didn't go unnoticed, and it didn't go uncriticized. Harry's quiet attempts to rebuild relationships and sustain his charitable purpose keep running into invisible walls. Nothing here is settled. The headlines shift, the family dynamics simmer, and the world watches every move. So ask yourself, was that Instagram post a strategy or a coincidence? Can Harry ever genuinely repair what's broken with William and the King? And perhaps the question that hangs heaviest over everything, can this marriage hold under the weight of failed ventures, financial pressure, royal exclusion, and a resentment that appears to be growing by the day? Meghan wanted the icon status. She wanted global recognition. She wanted wealth built on her own terms. Instead, she has a trail of collapsed ventures, a husband estranged from his own bloodline, and a public that has grown visibly exhausted by the performance. She convinced Harry to abandon the institution she called oppressive, promising something greater on the other side. What they built in its place is still searching for a foundation. Drop your thoughts below. Was Meghan deliberately trying to steal Harry's moment? Will Harry ever find his way back to his family? And when you strip everything away, can this marriage actually survive?